Barnstable This Morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me live on the phone, I welcome Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority Administrator Tom Cahir. Tom, good morning.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks.
So, Tom, I wanted to talk today, we're going to kind of take a trip outside of Barnstable and talk about some things that are going on in Falmouth. Of course, really there's been rumblings across the Cape about improving bicycle routes, and I know that there's a project going on right now. The Cape Cod Rail Trail is extending through the town of Yarmouth. Hopefully someday will come to Barnstable, but we're talking today about the Shining Sea bike path, a beautiful bike path that goes from Falmouth to Woods Hole. Tell me a little bit about what we're hoping for in terms of improvements to that great resource.
Well, Sarah, as I know, and I know you know, as being a bicycle enthusiast, in my previous life at the state, I was involved in overseeing a statewide bike plan, and one of the things that I was always trying to do, one of the primary objectives was to connect, Pittsfield with Provincetown. Connectivity was very important between communities, and even though that is a challenge. When I got down here to the Cape, I thought, there's no reason why we can't have all 15 towns connected. I think bike and TED activity in each community connecting would be wonderful, not only for health reasons, but just for the tourists and the overall, makeup of Cape Cod. So we already have some really wonderful facilities, as you well know, the Cape Cod Rail Trail and Shining Sea, which goes from North Falmouth down to Woods Hole. And there's efforts in a lot of other communities in Yarmouth and obviously Barnstable and Sandwich, where there's ongoing efforts to make bike facilities available. And so I live in Bourne, and I was talking to some friends a couple of years ago about extending Shining Sea to the Cape Cod Canal. Obviously there's a little bit of rail activity up there too, so we had to consider those issues. But here at the RTA, we have some federal funds, enhancement funds, that allow us to spend on bike and TED activities. So we've been working with the Cape Cod Commission and a gentleman from up in Bourne, Nathan Robinson, who's really been spearheading this effort. And there was a meeting last week in Bourne where there were about 30 or 40 people there, all of whom were, supporting the effort. So, and, there's a process, there's studies that are necessary, and the Cape Cod Commission, being the regional land use planning agency, is actively involved and very helpful. So I'm confident that someday, in the not-too-distant future, that will be extended from the existing terminus at North Falmouth up to the canal, and then hopefully one day down to connect into Sandwich, and then up around Sandwich to Barnstable and Yarmouth. So I think it's important, and I support those initiatives, and we all have here at the RTA since I've been here. So we're pleased that is progressing.
And so really the idea someday you could start in Woods Hole and really ride on a paved bike path all the way up into Provincetown. Right.
I mean, that's kind of my goal, but, it's not my primary responsibility here. But if we have resources to be of assistance with those who can take it on in each community, I think it's a good thing.
Absolutely. So, I know that, as you just said, there was a meeting recently about some funding and expanding that path. What are we looking at in terms of timeline and then possible roadblocks for that extension? And how long, how many miles is it between the current terminus in North Falmouth and the where you'd like to hook up with the canal?
It's about 8 or 9 miles from North Falmouth down through Monument Beach, Pocasset, Tomet, and then down to this train bridge in Buzzards, well, not Buzzards Bay, but on the south side of the canal. So it's about 8 or 9 miles. And as I said, this gentleman, Nathan Robinson, he's a Bourne resident. He's a very sharp guy, and he's a planner. But he doesn't work for the town, but he's a planner and cares about these kind of issues. So he's put together a really nice PowerPoint and a presentation that he's been circulating, which is garnering support throughout the community. And then there's a feasibility study that is now underway, being conducted by the Cape Cod Commission. And there's an existing body within the town of Bourne, the Transportation Advisory Committee, who this meeting last week was before, and there seemed to be unanimous support for that. So the study will go on, and then the commission and the town will continue to communicate, and the resources are being identified, and the legislature's involved. So it's there's a process, but of all the things that I've been involved in, this gives me a lot more confidence in some things, as there seems to be a lot of support and very little opposition, none of which I've heard of.
Sure. And now I know like the rail trail was built on, old railroad kind of rights of way. How is
Right.
is the Shining Sea a similar to that? And when we're looking at that kind of 8 or 9 miles between North Falmouth and the railroad bridge area, is there kind of a clear path that could be used, or is that more going to be a little more complicated and kind of wayfinding for that?
Well, that's a good question, Sarah, because the whole Falmouth line, going from the Cape Cod Canal Bridge down to actually Woods Hole originally, but then to Falmouth Center, that was a contentious discussion when there was an effort to try to restore some sort of passenger service down there. And I always felt that you could have both. You could have a bike path, or a bike pedestrian trail, parallel to the existing track, but over the years, very little rail activity went down to Falmouth, so ultimately everyone decided to lift up the track from North Falmouth to down to Woods Hole. So there is no real rail activity from North Falmouth, southward, but there is track from North Falmouth that goes to the canal, and recently it's been used for the trash train, and sometimes I think the dinner train goes down that line a bit. So that's that will be discussed, and that's all part of the feasibility study. But if the bike path has to meander off the rail line at certain junctures, I mean, that's not the end of the world. But it is a little more complicated when you do have existing rail. So those things will have to be determined as the study moves forward.
Great. Well, Tom, I thank you so much, as always, for joining us here on Barnstable This Morning, and we look forward to the day where we can bicycle all the way across Cape Cod. I really appreciate it.
Great, Sarah. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye. Tom Cahir, of course, is the administrator of the Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority.